The Perimeter with Adam Morrison is produced independently and locally in Spokane, Washington by Spokast Studios. Our city, our stories. Visit www.spokast.com to learn more about how you can start your very own podcast today. Thank you to Jinx Universe and Position Music for letting The Perimeter use the song Let's Do It Again from Jinx's album, Make It Look Good.
I want to share a local secret that everyone needs to know about. Owens Farms Piedmontese. For over 35 years, the Owens family has bred and sold a select amount of their premier Piedmontese beef by word of mouth. And now, for the first time, is being made available to the public through our partnership. Go to ofp.farm or click the link in the show description to reserve your half or whole order of premier Piedmontese beef today. There's only a limited amount of Owens Farms Piedmontese beef available, so make sure you don't miss out. The Perimeter with Adam Morrison is proudly presented by Owens Farms Piedmontese. The Perimeter with Adam Morrison is brought to you in sponsorship with Delicious Hamburgers. Did you know Delicious Hamburgers and fries are the freshest in Spokane? Their hamburgers are never frozen, and that's because it tastes better. There's not even a freezer in the restaurant. Their fries are always made to order and never sit under a heat lamp. It's differences like this you can truly taste. Next time you're craving the freshest hamburgers and fries, head to the corner of Augusta and Division and ask for the Perimeter Combo. A triple delicious hamburger with grilled onions, pickles, and special sauce. It also comes with fries and your choice of a milkshake. Delicious. Taste the difference.
Let me introduce you to the Spokane Workers Co-op, a locally based worker-owned holding company whose mission it is to increase access to living wages, workplace democracy, and autonomy, and to create the sort of lifelong career trajectories that are increasingly uncommon for the majority of people in America. The worker owners of SWC, regardless of which business they work, are equal co-owners of the entire holding company, providing them not just direct ownership of the fruits of their own labor, but ownership in a diversified and resilient portfolio of businesses dedicated to serving Spokane and the Inland Northwest. SWC also buys traditional businesses. SWC buys traditional businesses like LLCs, partnerships, and sole proprietorships, for example, from owners who are ready to retire and who want to make sure the employees who help them build their business are taken care of after the owner leaves. Learn more at www.spokane.coop. And if you're an owner interested in talking about selling, email SWC at team@spokane.coop. That is team@spokane.coop.
Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Turn up the 10. Let's do it again. Let's do it again.
Welcome back to episode 2, season 2 of The Perimeter, presented by Owens Farms Piedmontese. We have the producer, Brennan Poynor. I always mess your name up.
Oh, it's fine.
I just put you as Brennan Podcast in my phone, so it's easier.
That's how everyone knows me.
Yeah, exactly. To kind of prompt, I wanted to have an episode, especially after, the Texas game and then obviously Kentucky last night, kind of my thoughts and feelings towards where the team is headed, how, the progression should be. The sky's not falling. Is it falling? Because our fan base is so, the non-conference is so much more important than conference in all reality. So like the season really starts earlier in their minds than other programs who kind of, get to let their young players or their newer guys grow and get some experience and get some wins, get some nice games where they can go out and score 15 and you know what I'm saying, and gets to North Florida or something like that. We don't have those type of games. Heading down to Austin, never been there. It was a cool city. It was really cold. And
It was cold?
It was like 50.
Oh, man.
I'm not kidding, too. And it was like abnormally cold. It was weird. Everything in the South was getting that cold front or something, but it was kind of disappointing. So, we go to the Moody Center. And apparently their basketball facility before was like modern, but it was too big, so like they wouldn't draw very good. So it felt empty. So they built this new Moody Center, and it was estimated cost was like 375 million, right?
Holy cow.
Okay, and they didn't even build, or they didn't. It's not even financed by Texas, which is crazy. Okay, so just to give everybody kind of a backstory, it was like compared to where Gonzaga is as far as fundraising and resources. I know this is Texas, this is a juggernaut, but this is a theme for a later show about joining the Big 12. Okay, we talk about facilities and what other people's resources is. We had to scratch and claw to get the practice facility built at Gonzaga for like $30 million, and like they fundraised their ass off to get that done. They did this in like 3 to 4 years.
That's crazy.
They got a check for $130 million from the Moody's, whatever business that is, family or business or probably both. McConaughey helped them, anyway. So like this place is state of the art. It's crazy. So we go in, check it out, and you're just kind of like, this is like, we don't even, we're obviously a top tier program. That's not what I'm saying, but like just the level of being able to raise money and have that stuff is just, it's just like we're not even in the same stratosphere. It's crazy. So we go in, brand new building. It was their third game or second game, but it was their first big game that they've had, and probably one of their biggest non-conference games in program history as far as ranking. Okay, obviously they've had a million good teams coming there, Kansas teams and stuff like that, but non-conference, it's legitimate. One of the biggest, right? Number 2. Mm-hmm. So my thoughts going into the game was the year before we blew them out at home, and I know the score was only 12, but we were up 25 at one point, and it was a rout kind of, Drew Timmy was doing all of his shit and laughing and joking and doing what he does, but it was kind of like, this could be a fight the next year, because you could tell they were kind of pissed off about it. But a lot of programs and coaching staff, and Coach Fuse, one of them, is like, if you get blown out and people are like joking around and dunking and stuff, like you're more pissed off at your own team. Like some people are like, have some respect. It's like actually most high level programs and like even like in the league, guys like kind of eat it because it's like, well, fucking don't get blown out, right? Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So like, but you just put it in your back pocket, because like I think there's some fan bases or guys that just be like, you're not supposed to show somebody else up. It's like, yeah, but you can also celebrate your success. You get what I'm saying? There's a line, and some people I get that are watching don't understand that line. So we never cross the line, but you could still be pissed off about it, but you're not going to be like, they're non-classless. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
That's the point I'm trying to make. So there was a fervor already within that program.
Like they wanted to just kick our ass. Is that
absolutely? And if you're Chris Beard, this is year 2 of this is a massive job. Okay, so then you left Texas Tech and all that whole story, and they've Shaka Smart didn't work out, and then Barnes was the coach there. It was a good coach, but never like had a deep Final Four runs. Had some unbelievable players in there. So like this is a big commitment from a football school. Yes, they have the money, but it's still like they expect to win, and they're an area of the country that's a little bit not snooty, but that part of Texas is more wine and cheese. Yeah, doesn't mean they're bad people or whatever. That's not a political statement either. No. I got to put that out there. Okay? It's just it's more of an uppity type of crowd, which is fine. Mm-hmm. So places jumping, hyped, ready to go. Didn't have a good feeling before the game, and I'm not just Monday morning quarterbacking this. Obviously, that's what we're doing on Monday morning, sitting in an armchair. But just looking at their tape and how many guys they played, like it just seemed like a bad matchup for us. Mm-hmm. Not saying we don't have athletes, but it's also like they were rotating 10 guys, very good on the perimeter, and then Chris Beard's defensive strategy is always interesting. He's really good at kind of manipulating what you can do on the perimeter, They deny you out to 25, 28 feet, which is really hard if you can't get into your secondary actions or your pressure releases. So with that in mind, it was like, okay, this might be a tough one.
Yeah, they had five guys, like almost in double digits. They had 4 guys in double digits. And they just looked a lot better than us.
Yeah. Well, we started the game great. It was 10-3. Nolan Hickman, who needed to have a good game coming off the Michigan State game where he didn't play the last 10 minutes, and there was a lineup that played well, so he just got lost in the mix. He started the game off hitting 2 threes, and then they called technical on a 3-point make where he said something to the bench. I don't know what he said, and I said it on air, and I think it's so true. For an official, by rule, you can call that. Unless he said something vulgar, that happens all the time in basketball. Like a bench guy will say like, hell no, when a guy shoots it, or like that shit's broke. And then the guy makes it, turns around and is like, shut the fuck up, and then runs down. Like that happens all the time. And it's kind of like it's not a joke. It's not like vulgar or like, I'm going to fight you, but it's kind of like part of the game. So it was a weird technical, not from just a bias standpoint, but it's like, man, that's a quick one to call unless he said something vulgar, which I doubt he did. And it didn't look like, if he did, usually you can get the reaction from their bench. So it was kind of a cheap technical, took away kind of a momentum. I know it was very early in the game, but he makes 2 threes. And then they go on a run, get back into the basketball game. So that was kind of the weird starting to a weird game. So then as the game progresses, you can just see them getting more confident because they started the game off slow. I'm talking about Texas offensively. And, the Hunter kid that was Big 12 freshman of the year at Iowa State, he came on a transfer visit to Gonzaga, and he ended up putting on 26 on us. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, Tyrese Hunter.
Hunter, yes. Yes, very good player. So he starts to get going, and it's one of those deals where, obviously a good 3-point shooter, somebody that has the ultimate green light, that can score, shoot. It's hard to stop those type of guys, but I was a little bit disappointed, to be frank, that we kept letting him get, toed up threes, especially in the second half. Didn't make any sense. So, going back to the first half, they make a run. We're down 10 at half, I believe. Yeah, we're down 10
we're down 10 at half. You actually said we're lucky to be down by 10.
Yeah, the way the game was going was we were out of sorts. Drew had a decent first half. I think he had 8, and that was about the only bright spot, but he had limited touches. They did a good job of pushing him out to 18 feet on his catches, and then every time he put it on the floor, they were in the gaps, and then they pre-rotated on the bottom side for his spins and all that stuff. So it was tough sledding for Drew to begin with. And then we were taking just really bad shots from the perimeter. Julian had one step back that was terrible, just out of context. Not that you can't shoot him, but it just was like, I'm facing up and I'm going to jab right and shoot a step back no matter what. It was one of those where you could just tell, I was like, oh, you can't take that type of shot. You better make it, but it's just not in the context of the offense. Clock wasn't running down. And then Nolan got out of sorts as well. Rasheer didn't play well in the first half as well. So it was just one of those deals where turnovers, Drew's barely getting himself going, just nobody else is in a rhythm. Malachi couldn't get going off the bench. We were lucky to only be down 10, right? I mean, honestly. And they had that Cunningham kid that came off the bench that was playing hard minutes for them, got some steals, knocked down a 3, got a layup in transition, played really solid for them. So, I mean, it was one of those, hey, you get it to halftime, let's make some adjustments. But I think the biggest thing that I noticed in the first half, and it carried over to the second, was like we were getting our catches out of 28, 25 feet. And if you understand the game, some of the listeners obviously do, but the 3-point line used to be 19-9, so that's what I always call it. I think it's 21 or something. But if you get your catch beyond the 3-point line to enter your offense at 25, 28 feet. It's so hard to be lethal offensively. And they were just pushing us out continuously. And that is more of a toughness thing. And that's not saying our guys aren't tough, but sometimes you lose that as a group in a hostile environment. And it kind of, the deer in the headlights, or your eyes get glossed over a little bit, and everybody just kind of becomes a wuss for that game. And I think that's what kind of happened. And, like I said, we were just getting pushed out, couldn't get at our catches. I think the count I had, it was right. We dribbled off our foot 4 times, 20 turnovers, which is crazy for a Gonzaga program. I don't care who you're playing. But they were all bad turnovers too. And I know what I mean by that is, so if I'm playing and, we're in the flow of the offense and I drive, get by a guy, another guy comes over to help, and I fire a bounce pass, but he mishandles it, goes out of bounds. Could have been a layup, but it's the right play. Those turnovers you can live with because your defense can get back and it's a scoring opportunity. We were getting turnovers on entry passes. And then there's a term in basketball that some teams use. I think it's the right one. It's called the key pass. So let's say I throw it to the wing, and then the reversal pass, which is basically what starts the offense, they were taking away the key pass. And so, wing to I guess it'd be wing to post, high post. That reversal, they stole it like 5 times. And that's terrible because it's like a pick at half court. You can get a run out, or it's a foul, or it turns into 2-on-1. It's just like a high emotional play. And also it's just like it's going away from the bat. It's just it's a key pass and not a scoring pass. And they stole that. So like those turnovers were just absolutely, horrendous for us. And they just kept mounting up. We had like 3 where it was thrown over a guy's head on skip passes, just bad. So overall, I mean, Texas is a very good team. We knew that going in. We haven't played a true road game since Arizona in 2019, which is non-conference road game.
Yeah.
Okay? And obviously BYU, we play them in conference, and, Santa Clara draws pretty well, same areas, obviously, but we haven't played a true road game this early in the season since 2019. So I think we had to, in theory, some of the guy, that crew was not even around for this crew. You know what I'm saying? So like, I was going to say, well, you got to give some guys time to get used to him. But to me, I'm like, you're just playing on the road. It's not that you don't have to be like babied into it. You kind of just get thrown in the fire. And like, if you're not ready for fans to yell at you and scream, like, well, then why are you playing Division I basketball? So with that being said, like, it's not to rip the guys, but it's like, hey, we knew this was going to be a raucous environment, and it's fun that way. It's more fun, right, in my opinion. So
we typically get through the non-conference schedule pretty unscathed. Like we'll have last couple of years we've had some losses, or last year we had a couple losses, right? But we haven't had like a loss like this, in a non-conference in a long time. I mean, how important is it for the Zags to like experience this early on versus like at the end of the season?
Well, I think, playing the, I guess the tougher opponents early, there's pros and cons to it, obviously. Usually you come into those games, injury free because it's the start of the season, you know what I'm saying? So you're not just nicked up, so you're kind of full force. There's not as much tape on each other. Obviously you can watch last year, but especially with transfer portal and stuff, there's turnover, right? So it's kind of new in that regards. But I think just, playing these tough games early, it prepares you for obviously conference, but it's kind of what we have to do. I mean, that's the thing is like people don't understand. Well, I think people understand, but they don't, at a higher level. It's like when we get into conference, RPI is an outdated term, but Ken Palm is how they measure, strength of schedule, all this stuff, and it goes into how they decide your seeding. Okay, so for the tournament, ours goes down every year when we get into conference, just naturally. Doesn't matter. Last year we had 3 teams in the NCAA tournament from the West Coast Conference, still went down. The conference is better. It's not just me ripping the conference, but it's not a Power 5. It's not a conference that's going to get 8 teams in, and if you finish 5th, it's actually, well, you'll probably be a 6 seed. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, we have to play these type of games early. Now, making the schedule the way we have, obviously we go North Florida, we go Michigan State on the aircraft carrier. We already talked about that, but that was a bonkers atmosphere. And then Texas, and then we're going to get into Kentucky, and then we go into PK85. Usually you go 2, and then you throw in let's play Montana State or Eastern. You know what I'm saying? Nothing against them. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Game that you should win.
For sure.
And we haven't had that. So it's funny when you schedule these. It looks good in June, but then when you get to it, you're like, I kind of want my guys, especially the young backcourt, to have a chance to feel good about themselves or play good, against a lesser opponent. I know that sounds kind of anti-competitive spirit, but it's a marathon, not a sprint. There's a science to getting guys to feel good about themselves, get them to play with more confidence, so they play above their how good they are or whatever. So yeah, it was curious to go into that Texas deal for the reason of it being at a true road game. Like, we'll play neutrals all the time, but usually not that early you play a true road game. But they came to our place, so I think he was like, yeah, we'll play at your place. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think both coaches should be applauded for doing that, because not a lot of teams do that anymore.
Play at each other's home arenas.
No, they just do neutrals in the especially if you come from a tough conference, and they just do neutrals the whole time, and it's kind of weird. But all in all, that Gonzaga Texas game was just a weird vibe to it as far as how we looked. And it's easy to say because we got blown out, but there was no accountability as far as playing hard, playing as a unit. The rhythm was terrible. Turnovers were obviously terrible. If they played hard and lost by 10, I wouldn't be saying those things. So I just want everybody to understand that I'm listening. It's not just to hammer 18 to 22-year-olds. It's also to be like, if you don't play hard and do the little things like fight to get open, box out. All those little things that everybody talks about. And if you played any sport at any level, understand like the basic fundamentals, you will get beat badly and look bad. And that's exactly what happened. So, and it was kind of interesting too, if this is going to be a later episode, if it gets further down the road, playing in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, and I know Texas is going to the SEC, right? Yeah, they're the ones that are moving with Oklahoma, but going to a power conference, which has been rumored for years, and it's a real rumor, going to a power conference with facilities and deep pockets. And I understand that we've competed, and I'm not saying that we can't. The point is, like, it's a different ball. You jump to a different ball game as far as recruiting and things of that nature.
Yeah,
it's different. It's like you go on there. It's professional sports basically at Texas. You know what I'm saying?
So it is a whole nother episode. Moving to the Big 12.
Yes, it is a whole nother episode, and I'd like to talk about it just on pros, cons, my opinion. Because I think I have a good idea of what it means for all the sports, because it's not just men's basketball. But there's some parameters that need to be discussed, in my opinion. Trying to move a different conference. West Coast Conference has been great, but I think at some point the schools with power brands, which we do, even though we're not football, but we do have a really good brand, they're all going to go higher to the top of the pyramid. And if you get left out, you get left out, and that's a lot of dollars for everybody, not just people's pockets. I'm talking for athletic departments, other sports. So I think that's the reason, in my opinion, people are talking about us moving to another conference finally. It's not just, hey, we want to play better people. It's like, no, universities that with some, like I said, brand and some want to, are all starting to align. And it's like, if you get left out in the cold, you really will be left out. Yeah. And that's what people don't want to sit on their hands.
It's the equivalent of like moving up in English football, right? Like playing in the WCC is like playing in a lower level of Premier. Like if they got up to a Big 12, like that's a lot more. There's a lot more
resources,
money there.
Yeah, it's a lot more resources, but it's not just that. But
Yeah.
that's again, we'll save that for another episode, because if that is going to happen or sounds like it, I want to bring on somebody that is more familiar with the situation. I know a lot of stuff. I'm just not going to say it right now because I don't want to be wrong. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know what I'm saying? So it's going to be interesting to see. But we floated the Mountain West a few years ago. So like it's not a new concept, you know, so maybe it's just all conjecture, but there is actual movement, not with Gonzaga program, I'm just talking in college sports in general. Everybody knows that. So it's like, it shouldn't be like a shock in my opinion.
It's not, yeah.
So let's segue into the Kentucky game played last night in Spokane, Veterans Memorial Arena. Fantastic atmosphere. I think they set, I thought I heard they set the record. Yeah, 12,337 most attended game for basketball in the arena. Sold out in 11 minutes. You know, fun times, obviously. Going into this game, I think there was some legitimate nerves just around the not inside the program, because I'm by the program, but I'm not inside the program. But like support staff, because just how shitty we looked against Texas, and it was like barely beat Michigan State, which turns out it's going to be a great win because they beat Kentucky, and I think they just beat Villanova. So like people should be happy. It's like go Michigan State the rest of the year. That's going to turn out to be a really good win for us. You know, barely beat them, but again, that's an asterisk game with the aircraft carrier bullshit. Like fun game to be a part of, but it was weird playing hoops on outside. Anyway. You know, like you look at that, it's like, man, we could easily be 2-2, but you could feel like you'd be 1-3 going into this Kentucky game, and it's technically a home game, right? They count it as a home game. So, but we haven't played in the arena since 2014, which is crazy stat. People didn't realize. Like last time we played was a Washington State game, and we played them when that's the only reason we agreed to play a home and home, but we played them in the arena, and then they had to play in the kennel. Good job, Fewy. It's like, we're not going to Pullman. We'll play you in the arena. But so it was their presentation.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it was the last time. So I think people were kind of wondering how this team will play in that gym, because I think it's a shitty. I played well there in high school. I played well there in college. One game. I played there twice in college. My memory serves. 3 times. I played there good once. The 2 of them were as a freshman, so I kind of, you know, sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Like I played okay, but like the numbers aren't great. I only played like 18 minutes a game that year. Anyway, so some guys I always talked to didn't like it because the backdrop's weird, because the fans go further back. But then like always the excuse, and I've heard it, and Coach Fee always says it, and it's true. It's like, if you want to play in the NBA, like you're going to play in fucking arenas all the time. So what? And it's true. It's kind of like, well, who cares?
Yeah.
Get used to it. You know what I mean? So like, I think you kind of have to put that out of your mind, but it's a real concern. But like, I think if you're ready to ball and hoop, you just go hoop, right? The only excuse I think I could ever give is the aircraft carrier game when it's outside. It's like, okay, that's a legitimate excuse.
Yeah, because there's depth perception.
Depth, and there's wind.
Yeah,
like,
and wind, right?
Yeah, so like it's a real issue. But you know, so going into this game, you know, there were some nerves because, I mean, if you look at the Texas box score, I mean, Nolan Hickman had what, 8. And he had 4 turnovers. Julian Strother had 13. You know, 4 turnovers. I mean, it was just turnover. Rasheer had, how many points? He had 11, but he was 3 and 9. You know what I'm saying? So, like, the real question was, like, how's our backcourt going to play against an athletic team? You know, by tradition, and obviously Coach Cal does a good job of getting his guys to fly around. So it was like, okay, we have to play better from the backcourt, can have 20 turnovers, obviously any game, but against the Kentucky, we'll get ran out of the gym. So that was a big concern. How we were going to guard Sheway was a big concern going into it. I thought the strategy that Coach Few used with Anton Watson was fantastic. They did a basic front with a bottom side help every single time. So there was a pre-rotation whenever somebody caught it on the wing, the weak side guy who was in the opposite corner would be on the split line, or they call it the low hole, or the bottom hole is basically what they call it. And so if they want to throw a lob pass from the top of the floor or the wing, there is a guy with a full, we call it a full front or a full side front. He wasn't completely around like this, so you could still feel him on his body, but it was a full front. So they can't throw that lob. So I thought not having Drew on Shibwe was brilliant because it allowed Drew to kind of rest on one end and then not pick up foul trouble. And early, every time he caught it, Anton met him early so he couldn't get deep touches. And then what he did a really good job of is face boxing him every time that a shot went up. So yeah, at the beginning of the game, I was really impressed with our start offensively. You know, we come down and bang 2 threes, but we were just more active. And then defensively, especially when the ball went up on the glass, there was at one point we were up 11 on the glass, and we held them. I think it was the first two. Yeah, it was the first two media. So essentially 10 minutes in the game, they didn't have an offensive rebound.
Oh, wow.
And Shibwe was he averaged 15 plus rebounds last year, 5.5 offensive rebounds last year. So it's kind of his offense. It's kind of Kentucky's offense. Like, hey, let's run our stuff, but our secondary is like, we're going to throw it up and push you in the back and go fucking put it in. I thought Anton to start the game really set the tone. Just on a defensive and toughness standpoint, it was fantastic. I like that strategy too. I like fronting guys. I like face guarding their best player. I like making somebody else beat you, and that's what we did to start the game. So from a energy standpoint, it was way better. Obviously, we still had 18 turnovers in the game, but I'm going to say this, and I know it sounds funny, and it's not just because we won. The turnovers we did have were never like led to run out dunks or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it never felt like it like changed momentum of the game.
Exactly.
Either.
So like that was what happened at Texas, and that's why it was so shitty and it was so bad because they were like being soft turnovers, like weak passes. You know, like I said, not V cutting to get open and catching the ball at 21 feet right on your toes on the line so you can make an entry pass, catching it at 28 instead of. You know, and then throwing a skip pass that's a lollipop that you tell your kids not to no rainbows. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying all week with my 6-year-old crews. No rainbows, and they're throwing rainbows. You know, but like there was those. So you know, just the mindset and the energy was so much better. Obviously, playing at home helps, but I think after that Texas game, I can't confirm this, but I guarantee there was a long. Man-to-man discussion about, film session with all the guys and with their individual coaches and probably got called out. And it's never demeaning at Gonzaga. It's never like MF, but it's probably like, hey, if you're going to play here, you can't catch the ball at 28 feet or we're just going to play somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Like a wake-up call, like we can't function if we're going to play like this. And that wakes you up more than just getting chewed out. As a players, when it's kind of just like, when a parent's like, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. I bet you that was the film session. Obviously with some a little bit mustard on it, but also like, hey man, you're supposed to be a high level recruit, or you want to play at the next level. Ain't gonna happen, Chief, if you keep doing this. You know what I'm saying? And that's a real
real question. Those are the type of conversations that happen in locker rooms, like you're getting called out, like saying you're a top recruit. Like, is it that cutthroat? I'm curious to know.
Yeah, no, I think if you watch a film and you get your ass kicked,
yeah,
like pushed around, it's not score ass kicked, it's getting pushed around and like being soft, then maybe there's some personal stuff that might get mixed in there. Not as bad, and again, like this is the honest truth. Like I'm pretty open and real on the show. I only filter by maybe like 2% of the stuff. Yeah, right. Just to be real, that stuff that would get me fired or like embarrass people, I'd leave off. Yeah, okay, that's not a lot of stuff, right? But Fewy doesn't. He's not very like he's not an asshole in that sense. Like he'll call you a puss. if that's the right term, or wuss or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like, he won't like demean you. You know what I'm saying? But he has in the past a little bit. But sometimes it's necessary. If that makes sense. So yeah, like I don't know, like.
But a recruit or a player will come to Gonzaga for a role, and like if you're not playing in that role, and you're gonna get talked to, right?
Yeah, no, exactly.
So.
I mean, if you go on the road and you have 20 turnovers, you get beat by 19 or whatever it was, Texas.
Yeah.
And you look soft, like you can't just be like, let's go, guys. Like, and then also too, like as a crew, you're gonna be upset, and there's gonna be some internal leadership, or like, hey man, coach is right, or like nobody will even complain about getting yelled at because they're kind of like, he was right. This is embarrassing as a crew, and let's go in and fix this. So to get back to the Kentucky game, is their energy was way better to start the game, and we end up getting up 16 there in the first half. Let me see the stat. What was the first half's count? Yeah, up 16, 20, 41-25. So, absolutely way better start. Kentucky, though, was 0 for 10 in the first half, I believe, from 3. So we got kind of a gift shooting the ball wise. They only shot at 25%, 8 for 32, like terrible. But again, part of that was with the defensive strategy that Coach Few used, and especially Anton Watson, who was fantastic on guarding Sheway. A lot of their actions would go throw it. It's kind of like what we do. You throw it into Drew, and then you're in your split actions with your screens, or you do your dive cuts, or you wait for a double team, skip, swing. We didn't allow him to get the ball, so then it was basically they had to make plays on the perimeter, which they're capable of. We saw it in the second half, but it probably threw them off to start. Well, probably it did. So, yeah, I mean, the first half couldn't have gone any better. I thought the crowd was A minus, I think. Don't you think?
I think it was. They were loud.
Good.
Like
it was loud, but it
loud.
wasn't like deafening. I don't know.
I turned to the guy sitting next to you, and I said, "Man, the vibe in here is so awesome." I was like, I've never been to a Gonzaga game in the kennel like this, because it's usually like, when I've gone to games, it's always been like
wine and cheese a little bit.
Yeah, like a December game.
Yeah,
but then I was just like, thinking, what would this game be like in the kennel?
Yeah.
And because it'd just be a lot louder. And,
probably.
But at the same time, like, there's a lot of people at this game who can't go to games at the kennel.
Oh, no,
which is great for
absolutely.
Yeah. So I thought the crowd was great. I thought it was good, and like I thought there was a really good crowd behind Anton Watson, like hometown boy. Like he was playing. He had some plays at the beginning of the game.
It's the best game he's ever played, in my opinion.
Yeah.
At Gonzaga, it's probably the most minutes he's played, 37 and a half, 5 of 8, 10 points, 10 rebounds. It says he only has 2 steals. I don't know who's doing the scorekeeping. I'm being honest. Like, he had more than 2 steals. Like, you got to count the tip aways and stuff like that. But just his energy and his ability to kind of man up to Sheboy as far as taking him away. But then he wasn't on the. Usually when you get assigned, like, hey, defense is your night. Like, some guys, kind of don't do anything in the offensive end, which is fine if you're playing like a high level guy. It's like, hey man, we got you on the offensive side. Give us everything you got. But he gave us something on the offensive end. Was 5 of 8. Had 2, amazing dunks that got the crowd going. I think it was, like I said, it's his best game as a Zag. It's cool that he did it in the arena. He played in the arena as well, going to Gonzaga Prep. So just in the first half, I think he was the real difference maker. Drew was rolling too. Rasheer started the game off well. I like Julian's energy. I mean, to be honest, against Texas, he took some ill-advised shots. He didn't play with any pop, and so I think that message was probably was like, hey man, you have the makings to be an NBA guy, but it needs to be energy and downhill all the time, and then defensively you need to be long and athletic, and then offensively it needs to be hard rips and 1-2 dribble pull-ups, or you get to the open space and get your 3 going like you do, but it's got to be faster. You got to be quicker. You got to be more concise. And you did that the other night, or against Kentucky, and he had 20 points. I mean, he played fantastic. Got to the line 7 times, made them all 3 of 4 from downtown. 20 points on 10 field goal attempts. So like that message was said as well.
He almost had a double-double in the first half.
Yeah,
he had 9 rebounds in the first half and 12 points. So.
Yeah, he go 20 and 14. Yeah, I mentioned the points, but he had 14 rebounds. Mm-hmm. Again, this is not taken away from Strother, but a lot of those, it was great because Anton Watson was face boxing Shibwe, so that Julian had free run to go grab those. Right. Great. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Fantastic. But 14 rebounds is great. But it was like Anton kind of neutralized, obviously, their best rebounder. So, yeah, first half, fantastic energy. Crowd was into it. Like I said, it wasn't A+. A minus still gets you a good job in the world here. You know, it was cool seeing a lot of people enjoy themselves. Coming into the second half, I knew they were going to make a run. I know that sounds funny, but like a good Kentucky team always does. And I think the biggest key into that run was when Nolan Hickman picked up his 4th on that block charge play. I think it was probably like 14 minutes left in the you know what I mean? Like it was early. Mm-hmm. So then Rasheer has to handle the point guard duties, and they just bring him off the bench, or they, started pressing. And that's when they kind of Kentucky cut that lead down to 5 at one point and kind of just got their way back. They obviously shot it better. I mean, they were, like I mentioned, 8 of 32 in the first half, and then 19 of 37 in the second. So they go from 25 to 51, and then they actually make some threes, 6 of 15 in the second half, but up 6 of 25 overall. But it was a game of 2 halves. And I thought they just did a better job of not just trying to go in Shibwe and just playing, you know what I'm saying, and picking up the pace a little bit. Mm-hmm. But in fairness, like Rasheer did a good job of, handling the pressure. He had a fantastic game too with, what do you have, 24? Mm-hmm. Yeah, on 8 of 14, 4-6 from downtown. But he did, during that sequence, he had to be the primary ball handler, which he's capable of. But he did a good job of stepping into that role, emergencies, and then as well as Julian and as well as Hunter Silas off the bench, because they were, man full press. It wasn't completely hectic, but it was like, obviously they're trying to speed you up, trying to get you to, turn it over, mm-hmm. play out of sync. So I thought when he went to the bench, Kentucky did make a nice run, but our guys did a good job of kind of staving that off. And getting, mini runs back. But yeah, they got it within 5. And, another big play of the game, talking about foul troubles, when Shibwe picked up his 4th with 12:45 left. I think that was a massive, momentum swing for Gonzaga to take the momentum back, because Kentucky was rolling at that point. I say it on the air all the time. I don't know if, the people on the podcast understand this, but I think it's the dumbest effing rule in basketball. I think there should be 6 fouls at every level of the game. I'd say the same thing of Drew Timme. He got his 4th last night. People go to those games to watch Shibwe versus Timme or whatever. 6 fouls should be the National Federation. I just think it's so stupid, especially like in the first half, guy picks up his second, then he has to sit the rest of the time. It's dumb. It's dumb. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So again, that's just my little rant about the rules, but like Shibwe has to sit down with 12:45 on one shitty bad call. The other 3 were fouls, but he gets a ticky-tack on a rebound, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just like it was on a rebound, and it just was like that kid should be still in the basketball game. It was good for Gonzaga, but I sit there. I obviously call 35 games a year. I was like, why can't the USA Federation just say 6 fouls from all the way down to high school? And if you want to go further, if you pick up your 6th foul, it's a technical and 2 shots and a free throw, and you're disqualified. So then you can really put the hammer on guys not fouling, right? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It's a simple fix, but I'm tired of going to these games, especially in college, and you see it in the NCAA tournament, these dumbass refs call a ticky-tack foul at 70 feet on one of their best players. Oh, it's a second, then he's got to sit the rest. It's just dumb. Anyway,
it changes the momentum of the game, and
just people go there to watch the best players, mm-hmm. and it's just. And then, like I said, if this was Drew Timme, I'd be having the same conversation last night. If it was Drew Timme picking up his 4th and he had to go sit, and that's happened in games, it's just dumb. I'm just tired, and especially first half, 2 fouls, you got to go sit down. It's so stupid. It's dumb.
It's not, and the counter is like, learn how to play without fouling. Of course. But there's so many dumbass refs that still ref that are bad, and I watch the games, and it's not just saying bad against Gonzaga, like just generally bad that have no feel. You put the game in his hands, and it turns into a shitty product. It does.
He does, yeah.
It turns into a bad product, and so then it's like just make it 6 fouls all across the board, even into high school, college, pro, high school, 6 fouls, and it would solve that issue of having guys get off the floor. It eliminates some of the bad officiating that affects the game because there's one more, obviously. So then even if a ref makes 2 shitty calls in the first half and you have 2, you don't have to sit theoretically, right? So anyway, Sheway going out with 12:45 was a big momentum deal. I thought Kentucky did a really good job, especially Toppin in the second half of, kind of taking what the defense gives them, knocking down jump shots, things of that nature. I thought it was a really good, contested game from both sides. You know what I'm saying? Like it was clean on both sides. Like there was 18 turnovers on our end. Kentucky only had 10. Only had 11. But like I said, our turnovers weren't, bad, that led to points, runouts, things of that nature. I mean, they only had 13 points on our 18 turnovers. We had 44 paint points. Fast break was even wash 5-6. So I thought both teams played like a good, clean basketball game, for the fans. And I know that sounds funny. We don't play for the fans, but also this game sold out in 11 minutes. Like people were nervous at Gonzaga for this game because you want a good product. You understand you want, the fans that don't get to go to games that, support us for 25 years have an opportunity, but then you don't want to go out and just look like dog shit because we look like dog shit against Texas. So there was some real apprehension going into this. Like, okay, if that same team that shows up to Texas, it's going to be embarrassing. But then also it was the things that happened during Texas were easily fixable. And I knew they'd get fixed. And this is not just, trying to pat myself on the back, but it's like, all right, Nolan Hickman's a good player. Julian Strother is a good player. Rasheer Bolton's a good player. Obviously, Drew's a good player. Anton's a good player. All these guys are can function. Okay, just come to a jump stop, pivot through. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you just fight to get open, you'll get open. You know what I'm saying? Like, all these are fixable things. These aren't skill things, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, move the basketball. You get towed up 3-point shots. You're gonna make them just off basketball karma. Okay, so coming into it, I was like, okay, I know Fewey's going to fix this. So if we at least play hard and do the things that we normally can do and lose, way better than, again, looking how bad we did against Texas. That was the most disappointing thing. But overall, I thought it was a fantastic, well-contested game. I thought Sheway was a really good player. I've seen him on TV, never seen him in person. Really good nose to the ball. I mean, how many offensive, even though we did a good job on him, offensive rebounds to get, he ended up having 6.
6, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? 20 and 15, and he didn't play great. And like I said, he was in foul trouble. Only played 28 minutes. So he probably missed out on 7 minutes. Probably would have played 35. Missed out on 7 minutes because of foul trouble. But he was a good player. I like the Toppin kid was good for them as well. It was interesting seeing, though, transfers at Kentucky. That never happens.
That's so true.
Yeah.
It's usually all freshmen.
Well, and I was always, I'm fascinated, maybe if I did a deeper dive, I could, get the answers. But I was wondering if this was a conscientious move from Calipari to go with a mixture of, one and dones or two and dones, but then getting some grad transfers or transfer portal guys, or was it hey, we didn't get some of the, the third McDonald's All-American, so we got to get somebody. Get what I'm saying? So wonder if he was all right, because after last year they lost to the first round. I can't even remember who, St. Petersburg or somebody like that. One of those small universities. Anyway, I wonder, because it was all freshmen last year, basically freshmen and sophomores. Obviously, Sheway was in there, but it was all young players. I wonder if he was like, you know what, we need to kind of make a change, so we have better, tournament success, or we have more experienced guys.
I wonder. I mean, the transfer portals has changed. Like NIL transfer portal, like it's all kind of changed the way things are working in the NCAA right now. So
absolutely.
It is really interesting to watch teams that are typically, rely on freshmen coming in, but now are getting transfers. Like it's kind of very, it's unpredictable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's you have to recruit your own guys kind of every year. Not recruit, but you kind of have to. Obviously, they can leave, and there's no like, hey, well, you have to sit out a year. That used to be a big deal. Mm-hmm. And then you can kind of survey the landscape, and if you're a big program, you can go, all right, let's go get some of the best mid-major guys that want a chance to up their game, like Malachi. I mean, Malachi was
for sure
averaged 21 at Chattanooga, and now wants a chance to up his profile. So it's easy for us to be like, come on, what I'm saying? Like the Tyrese Hunter, we talked about Texas. He was on campus. He was Big 12 freshman of the year at Iowa State. Didn't want to go to Iowa State. I think they had a coaching turnover. But like he can just literally transfer in conference, which is nuts. That used to be a rule. You couldn't transfer in conference.
Yeah.
Because then it prevents collusion. But that's out the door. Right?
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah, it's just crazy if you think about it. But yeah, I mean, it was just odd seeing, not odd, but it was different seeing Cal with some experienced guys and mixed in with some of their freshmen. But all in all, it was I thought it was a fantastic game. Not just because we won. It's just I think both teams played hard. It was relatively clean as far as shooting the basketball. Obviously, Kentucky was terrible at the start, but they made that up in the second half and made threes and shot over 50%. Tough contested shots. There was great plays on both ends. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I think we'll probably be going back into the arena. This was a big deal for probably a lot of people as far as, let's say you own like a box in the arena or just something, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like we probably want a Gonzaga game or two a year in that place.
I mean, that's how it used to be. And then it just kind of, it just kind of ended. And
yeah, Huey didn't like playing in there.
No, yeah.
He just didn't like it.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I think I see both sides. Like it makes sense to want to play in your arena, and like, but it also like it does give like the biggest complaint from Gonzaga fans who can't go is that it's impossible to get tickets,
mm-hmm.
and I do think Gonzaga should be able to be experienced by everyone, but yeah, I would like to see one game a year. I think
it's going to go to that possibly. Is my guess. So I think if that's the case, it's obviously good. It depends on the opponent too. I mean, like obviously people want the Zags to win, but I think if you're going to play a game, I want it to be at least a top 100 opponent. It doesn't have to be Kentucky every year. That's impossible. So people need to understand we're pretty lucky that we got them to come to Spokane and play in general.
Yeah.
But.
And that game ends. It's a 6-game series, correct?
Yeah, it ends in Lexington, I think.
Ends in okay.
I think because I know it goes Gonzaga, then Lexington, and then battle in Seattle, and then Lexington. Then I think we have a neutral mixed in there somewhere.
Okay.
I think. I just heard the schedule, but that's
yeah.
The funny thing is like. Honestly, like who knows if Cal's even going to be there in 6 years?
That's true.
Not from like a mortality standpoint, but I think he's 62 or something like that. Like he might be like, I'm done with this in 6 years. I mean, you know what I'm saying? He's old.
Yeah.
Older. Still looks young for his age, but like he's been in this game a long time. Like it's stressful. So anyway, heading into the PK 85, I like our chances. Portland State first. I don't have a breakdown because I really don't care about watching Portland State film. So we're either going to play Purdue or West Virginia. Purdue's ranked as top 25. West Virginia's 4-0 this year. Mm-hmm. Be interesting if West Virginia wins because of the comments that Huggins made about us moving to the Big 12. I didn't take him as a slight to the program. Some people did. He said they won't be as good, and he was. The real story is he was talking about himself. They went to the Big 12, West Virginia, and it's not been great for them.
Right.
From a program standpoint, from travel, facilities, all that stuff. So he was kind of throwing his own people under the bus, and rightfully so. Like, hey, man, be careful what you wish for. I know him and Fewy don't have an issue. So, but my point is, if West Virginia gets to that, it's going to turn into one perceived in the media. So I was like, oh, God. You get what I'm saying? Because he did make those comments. But most of these high-level coaches are not like boys, but they don't like go out of their way to like piss somebody, another fellow coworker or colleague out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's no point in it, right?
Yeah.
So I think either second round game's gonna be tough. Purdue's got that 7-4 kid that's really good. So it's gonna be an interesting matchup either way. And then if we win, it's probably Duke or Florida. Hopefully it's Duke, just because it'll be a better game for both programs. And we lost to them last year. So yeah, the tournament's gonna be fun. It's in Portland. It's Phil Knight's 85th birthday. We went to the last one, PK 80. I think that was my first year calling games. Yeah.
Is it every 5 years, this tournament?
I think they I think they do it every 5 years, but it's funny because I think it's normally the Thanksgiving ones. We've gone to Maui. We were supposed to go to Orlando during COVID, and then we went to the Bahamas, and now we're in Portland. And I think everybody kind of looks forward to that tropical Thanksgiving or whatever, nice weather. But I think Nike kind of does the, hey guys, you're going to show up to this tournament, right? You know what I mean? And you're kinda like,
Right.
Yes, we are. You know what I mean? It's easy travel for us, but I think everybody, like I said, kind of is nothing against Portland or the climate, because it's similar to here, but everybody's like, I want to go to the beach again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The next year, 40th tournament of the Maui Invitational that Zags will be in.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about like these tournaments, like how important is it for Gonzaga to face the best possible opponents in these tournaments?
Yeah, it makes complete sense, because if you're going to go to these and play 3 games, you want to at least get 2 that are resume builders, even if you lose, right? You know what I'm saying? Obviously, you don't want to lay eggs, but it's like that year we played in the Bahamas, we played Michigan, got our ass kicked, but like Michigan turned out that was kind of their breakout year for Juwan Howard's for his tenure. So it turned out being like, oh, that's not a bad loss. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
So I think you want to go into these, obviously, for your fan base a little bit, but you also, it's like, all right, if we're going to go play 3 to 4 of our games, or usually 3, we need to have their resume builders for us. And so that's why we've done them, obviously. And yeah, they're great for your fan base. They're great for the kids too. It's a good recruiting tool to be like, hey, you're going to go to Maui and stuff like that,
Yeah. You didn't play any Thanksgiving games, did you, when you were in maybe one? I think the only I was going back through the time when you were playing. I think the only game that was close was the Maui Invitational.
Yeah, I don't think I ever played on Thanksgiving. And yeah, by the way, we play at effing 9:30 on Thanksgiving night. Like, I'm requesting hazard pay or something, man. This is
it's Thursday, but the championship game's on Sunday. It's 4 days.
I know, it's
in
a
Portland.
long ass time to be in one city, let alone a cold city, let alone a city that's dead downtown compared to what it used to be. Anyways, we're not going to.
No, we're not going to get into that. I was going to ask you what you're doing for Thanksgiving, but like that's what you're doing.
That's what I'm doing. Calling Portland State Gonzaga. It's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, this tournament's going to be cool.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think Purdue and West Virginia present, and I hate looking ahead, but let's just be real. I'm not going to talk about Portland State. They present like a matchup that's different. West Virginia press Virginia. So they're going to get after it and try to, get you out of your comfort zone, kind of like Texas, even though Texas doesn't full court press, but the physicality and up into your shorts when you get cross half courts, very similar. And then, like I said, Purdue, Big Ten team, obviously tough, but they got a 7-4 kid that's good, that could score.
Yeah.
And you don't see that type of heights, and we're not tall this year. I mean,
Yeah.
Efton is, but he hasn't worked his way into playing heavy minutes yet. I think he has a chance. He's just hasn't looked great.
Yeah, I was going to say, I had
Not
one of my notes was that he's had 5 turnovers in 10 minutes over 2 games. And so,
Yeah, he's just
it's kind of a liability.
Yeah, he's just. I think it's hard to play with guys that are not as mobile. Now, the counter to that is like, well, the KYPs, a 7-footer, get him around the basket 1,000% right.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was one last night where he had a 3-second in the key, but he was open for 5. The ref gave him that, but had to call it. They don't call it very much in college, and they probably shouldn't in high school, which I like. It's like you should warn him to get out, but it should be 1,003, 1,004. Okay, I'll blow it, and you'd be like, get out. You know what I'm saying? But the guards didn't pass him the ball.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, he did have the guy sealed twice. It was a smaller guy.
That's fair, yeah.
But he did take a 3, which is ill-advised, and aired it. And then he had that turnover, and then he had another one. So my point is, this is not just to bash the kid. He hasn't moved into the good graces or shown yet in his rotation minutes that he'll play a bunch just because the guy's 7'4" is my point. Okay, he's new to the program. I think he's got a good body. I think he's got the skill set. Obviously, he's a high-level recruit. Not here to bash Efton Reed.
Yeah.
I think he's got a chance to be successful. He's just got to cut down the turnovers.
Yeah.
I mean, when you go in, you can't do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was going to say Ben Gregg also got in last night and took a 3, and
I thought Ben Gregg was actually fantastic in those 3.5, 4 minutes. It's hard to come off the bench cold, especially when you don't think you're going to get in. That's happened. I've been in that situation when you think you're out of the rotation, and then they call your name. It's like, oh God, because you're mentally there, but you're not usually when your minutes are coming, you can kind of prepare yourself. Because Drew picked up his second. Here we go again. A part of my rant. He's going to go sit down. It's so dumb.
yeah.
But I thought he came in and did well. He had a tip. He had a tip to Strother on a rebounded attempt that Strother got fouled, but he spun and got a hand on it. And then he had that post up where he got fouled, made his 2 free throws. I thought the 3 wasn't a great shot, but that's what he does. He's a pick and pop skilled guy. He played well in his minutes. So I thought, all in all, everybody that checked in the game, Hunter Silas had a charge, had a great transition bucket as well against the Kentucky. So everybody that played, I thought had a legitimate, moment in the game, which is cool. As a team aspect, anybody that's played sports, it's always fun when you win, and then everybody can look in the mirror and be like, I actually contributed to this game. It feels good. So all in all, a crazy week for Gonzaga basketball. Texas, dog shit. Kentucky, oh my God, we're going to win the national championship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy how much it ebbs and flows, and we go back and forth. But looking forward to the PK 85. We'll give you an episode of the recap after. Like I said, I think West Virginia and Purdue is going to be a real matchup, and then hopefully on the backside we get to play Duke. But I haven't seen what Florida can do. What have you? You know what I'm saying? I haven't watched them yet, but I think it's going to be great. But thank God we looked good and obviously won against Kentucky. But I was more worried about, our effort and energy. Not saying our guys don't have it, but it was kind of missing in the first 3 games, I guess, at the start of the season. I think there was like I said, a legitimate gut check type of film session, and then it was internally too. As a group, you have those too as players. It doesn't have to. Your coach doesn't always have to get you going. It's like, hey guys, we've been working all summer. Do you really want to play like this?
Yeah, I mean, it was a momentum. I mean, I can't say momentum, but it's if you lose that game, it changes
a whole bunch of stuff.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the rankings haven't came out today. I'm curious to know where we're at in the rankings. Not that it really matters right now, but it's would have been very interesting to see what would have happened, because I know a lot of people were, like you mentioned, and we were all very, very nervous.
Yeah.
Who was going to come out in this game?
Yeah. Well, exactly. Who's going to show up? And then, like I said, if you're Gonzaga and you want to make, do a deal with the arena and fan, you know what I'm saying? Like if you lose this game and look bad, like Fewey's going to be like, I don't care if you guys burn it to the ground, And I'd say the same thing if I was him. Like, I'm not playing in that barn, you know what I mean? Even though it's nice. It is nicer. Doesn't it seem nicer than it used to be when you were a kid? Like at the outside, like the restaurants and stuff. Like
it does seem.
It does. It's like, oh, good job, you guys. Like,
Yeah,
it just seemed a little bit more like up to date and hip. I always thought it was a dump when I was a kid.
Yeah,
maybe I was wrong, but
I think it's just they've definitely done some stuff on
like put some lipstick
in the
on
concourse and stuff. And it feels like a nice little arena. It's nice to have this type of event in the arena. Like, I think tonight WSU and Eastern are playing in there, but it's a good little venue, and it will be cool to see what Gonzaga does in there going forward. We do have some listener questions. Do you want to answer some listener questions real quick?
Depends what they are. Let's go.
What makes Drew Timme so hard to guard?
Drew Timme hard to guard. I think his ability to put it on the floor and get downhill is something that's is different from the skill set of the guys guarding him they usually see. I think his footwork is probably the best we've ever had in the program as far as pivoting, up fakes, things of that nature, shoulder fakes, all the below the rim stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's really good at getting deeper touches. So he, even though we spent an hour talking about how we got pushed out against Texas, but for the most part, he catches it at 12 to 15. So when he gets to his one dribble, even if they double, he can see it and spin away from it and counter to it. Or he's got a good enough touch that he can make, like a 16-foot and in, like jump hook runner. Like he made one last night from 15. That was just a weird ass shot where but it's a skilled shot if you practice it, but it looks weird. I think overall skill below the rim is probably the best we've seen of it. Makes him hard to guard.
Do you does he have an NBA comp right now?
It's a good question. I don't watch much of the NBA anymore, just because we're so busy with Zags.
Yeah,
I usually watch it in the playoffs. I mean, Luke Garza's made a team. I mean, I don't know. That's another episode.
Yeah.
After the season, and it's not because, like I said, I don't watch a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I know this is a tough comparison for him, but I know Domus was like, back to the basket at first, and then he like kind of figured it out, and he's playing well in the NBA. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, there's not. My hesitation is not that he doesn't have a chance. It's just the comp part is like, well, I don't watch enough.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, it does. Yeah, I'm mostly just curious because he coming back for his senior year, and he's obviously wanting to work on stuff that will get him ready to enter the draft. And so
outside shooting is
what
he needs to work on, and he knows that. That's probably what everybody's told him. That's not a knock, but it's like the floor space in that game in the NBA. I mean, you got to be able to make a 19-foot and an out jumper, preferably a three. It just helps what you do.
Yeah. The other question comes from I want to make sure I name out the people who do submit these questions. It comes from B Gamble 413. He asks, how can our guard play be more consistent?
Eliminate the turnovers and be a little bit tougher. Like I mentioned in Texas, we were pushed out to 25, 28 feet. I know it's about the fourth time I've said it, but you can't outrun your offense from that distance. You can't make entry passes. Your skip passes are longer. You can't shoot from there. You can, but it's a really low percentage shot. So I think all in all, based off Texas and then looking at last night, it was just, I know it's cliche and it's not an in-depth analysis, just be tougher. And toughness is not always playing through an injury, or tougher is getting over ball screens so your guys don't have to show, they can center field. Do it by yourself. Toughness is getting an arm bar and getting into the paint knowing that you're not going to score, but they have to collapse, and then you kick out and you do that 4 times a night. So Julian Strother gets 4 wide open threes. You know what I'm saying? Or getting out in transition, flattening the defense. And so, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I mean when I say tougher. And that's a term that all coaches will use. It's not a physical thing. It's sometimes a mentality thing. Like, hey, you know, tough ass point guards are the guys that do the little stuff that don't show up on the deal all the time, but you know, you win doing it. That makes sense.
It does. 56 points from our guards against Kentucky.
Yeah, they were fantastic.
They were great last week.
I think the stat I heard last night, it was interesting. The first time since 2018 that 3 guys had 20 or plus against Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
It was Duke. It was Zion, Cam Reddish, and Barrett.
That's crazy. Yeah.
It was the first time since 2018. It was that game that, remember, Duke came at the start of the year and beat the shit out of them, and that's when it was like, oh, Zion's a real.
Yeah.
And obviously Cam Reddish and RJ Barrett are good, but you were like, oh my God, like it's real, you know, like this kid is real, you know.
Yeah.
So
I remember that game.
Yeah.
That's all the questions we have today. We had a bunch of Adam questions, personal questions. We'll probably do maybe a show or more when we have more time in the season.
Yeah, they weren't bad, but it's just like I was looking at some, like what were your campus life and all that. We can talk about this stories we got to tell later.
Yeah.
How was your game in high school? I was fucking good. What do you expect? What? I mean, how do you? There you go. I answered one of my personal questions.
Have you considered coaching? You coach, so
yeah, coach. There you go. 2 out of 3. You got it. All right. Well, again, thanks for helping out, Brennan.
Yep.
I think I can get some player guests I got in mind. For coming up. But anyway, thanks for letting me, kind of rant and spew my thoughts on, this season, how it's progressing, how the games go. I hope the listeners enjoy. Thank you to our sponsors for, giving us a chance to boot this back up. But again, I find it enjoyable kind of, giving everybody my thoughts on how the team looks and stuff I can't say on the radio.
Well, everyone enjoys listening, and they're here for your analysis.
All right. Well, thanks for listening.
Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Turn up the 10. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again.
The Perimeter with Adam Morrison is produced independently and locally in Spokane, Washington by Spokast Studios. Our city, our stories. Visit www.spokast.com to learn more about how you can start your very own podcast today. The Perimeter with Adam Morrison is presented by Owens Farms Piedmontese and supported by the Lish Hamburgers and the Spokane Workers Co-op. Thank you to Jinx Universe and Position Music for letting the Perimeter use the song Let's Do It Again from Jinx's album Make It Look Good.